Okay, we're going to call the SISD meeting to order at 6:33. Local with prayer. Thank you, Father God, for bringing us together this evening. Thank you for allowing us to be here to conduct the business of the district. Thank you for all the presenters, staff, guests that we have this evening. Allow us to gather the information they present and make good decisions for our students, our staff, our community, Father God. As that you watch over those that aren't here with us this evening, as that you watch over us as we conduct our business and make our way home or to our destinations, Father God, that you grant traveling grace and your shield of protection. Just ask for a special blessing over this season as we begin December and remember what the season is about, Father God. It's just about you, Jesus, and our Savior. And I thank you for that. I ask this in your most precious name. Okay, let the record show that all board members present with the exception of Ms. Miles and Ms. Palmer, and we'll move into reports discussion.
Good evening, Mr. President, board, administration, guests. We have 3 reports. We can start with Dr. Dearman and the PK through 5 class size report. Following her, we will have a presentation from Dr. Howard and Mr. Merriquin for King High School journalism, and then the 25-26 calendar presentation will be from Mr. White.
Well, good evening.
Hello.
Good evening, y'all. Okay, so this afternoon I would want to share with you, I'll just give you an update on where we are on our class sizes in our pre-K through 5 classrooms. As you know, we are a district of innovation, which means that we have a document in place that supports us surpassing our 22-to-1 ratio for our pre-K through 5 classes, but there are some stipulations around that. And anytime we reach that, go above that 22-to-1, we're required to report that to our board. There's nothing we have to submit to the state, but we do have to submit it to the board to inform them as to the increase, and then what are we doing to support the academics in those classrooms. So the district strives to maintain the 22-to-1 ratio in all of our pre-K through 4 core classrooms. The district will provide a plan to support those classrooms that go above the 22-to-1 and notify our board of trustees, which is what we are doing tonight. If a pre-K through 4 class core reaches 25-to-1, we do contact the parents to let them know the situation and what we are doing to support those students. And as I mentioned, a TEA waiver is not necessary because we have an approved DOI plan in place. During the month of August 2024, our Sheldon ECA had a low enrollment in 2 of our pre-kindergarten classes. As a result, we utilized those teachers to support some elementary classes. At Carroll Elementary, we had an overage of students in 2nd grade, which required an additional class. As a result, we transferred one of those pre-K teachers over to Carroll to cover that particular class. At Royalwood, we had an overage of students in 1st grade. That additional Sheldon ECA teacher was transferred over to Royalwood to cover that additional teacher. At Cravens, we had low enrollment in one of our pre-K classes. Royalwood also had an influx of students in 2nd grade, so we transferred that teacher over to that campus. As a result of being able to transfer these students, we did not have to add an additional FTE, which does not cost the district any additional monies. Also, letters were sent to those campuses, from the campuses to the parents, explaining the fact that we had to add an additional class and why, and to kind of help that transition with the students to the new teacher classroom. During the month of November, I continue to monitor the numbers on a regular basis, on a daily basis, and as a result, we continue to watch a second grade students at Garrett Elementary. And at this point, they have 2 classes with 25 students, and they have 1 class with 24. So now we feel like there is a need to actually add an additional teacher at that campus. We try to keep those numbers low so we can actually provide effective instructions for our students. So that position is currently posted, and they're actually looking for a certified teacher to support those additional students. In the meantime, we have some other areas where we are above the 22-to-1. At Garrett, we have 2 first grade classes that have 23 students. At Garrett, we also have 2 second grade classes with 24 and 1 with 25, which we know are steps right now is to hire an additional teacher. At Monahan, we have a second grade class with 23 students. And then at Monahan, we have a 4th grade class with 23, a first grade at Sheldon Lake with 23 and 1 with 24. And then at Sheldon Lake also in 3rd grade, we have a class with 24, and then we have 3 classes with 23. And then at Sheldon Elementary, first grade class with 23 students, 3rd grade class, there's 2 classes with 24, and then 4th grade, we have 1 class with 24 students. And these numbers are as of yesterday's enrollment. And so as a result of that, we have some options to lower that adult to student ratio. This is the same thing we looked at last year when we had the same situation. Option A would be to hire additional paraprofessionals, which would cost the district additional funds, or we can utilize our after-school program part-time staff. And what we elected to do, because after last year facilitating this process, it proved to be very successful. We actually decided to use our after-school program staff. They're already employed by the district. They've been fingerprinted. They have proven themselves that they know how to facilitate and work with our kids. They already have a relationship with our students and also a relationship with the administrative team there. So, and that way we can bring them in immediately and use them as needed. Like right now there's 2 grade levels that we had people supporting, one at Sheldon Elementary and one at Sheldon Lake that we have since removed because those numbers have moved back down to 22-to-1. So we're watching on a daily basis. The after-school program staff know you're there based on need. So if we need them, we pull them, they support us, and that allows them to get some additional income as well. And some of these last year from working in this capacity, some of them were hired as paras on the campus for a full-time position because they proved themselves that they know how to work with our kids, have the capacity to work with our kids. And so we're pretty proud to be able to pull them in. But again, this process keeps the cost low because we're only utilizing them as the need arises. If there's no need, then we no longer have to use them in that capacity. And so as we continue through that process, training is also provided for them, especially if they've not ever facilitated that process of how to be a support person in the classroom. They get training prior to, and the teacher receives training. How do you work with an additional person in the room? So when you have 22, 23, 24 kids, an extra person in there, now you have a 22, 23 to 2 ratio. How do we facilitate that effectively? So they do receive training, and the process is monitored by the campus administrators as well as their campus instructional specialists. So they're there to provide that support for our students and our teachers. So as I said, I monitor the numbers on a daily basis. Are there any questions? And just to let you know, last year when we facilitated this, we actually used ESSER funds, so there was no local dollars that was used. And this year, because we got a little bit more Title I, we're using Title I monies. So it's all federal dollars that's supporting that because those monies are there to support the academics. So we're not using any of our local dollars to support that. And then we don't want to hire a paraprofessional. Then next month we don't need them, and we don't want to, dismiss anyone. So it's just so much easier to use these young people, and they love it. They actually love it. Any questions?
So is this an increase in enrollment from November or?
Yes, this has actually been monitoring along the way. Now, we actually started this process in the end of September. 1st of October. But the November was when we had the influx of second grade at Garrett. So I've been watching that for a couple of weeks. And as a result, we had support in there, but decided because of the numbers, it did warrant an additional teacher. Because when you get to 25, you really need to have an additional teacher. If it's across the board, it's enough for another class. And also when our pre-K classes, all of them have paraprofessionals in their rooms. So when we move those teachers, we are also utilizing those paraprofessionals to help cover these type of classes. So everybody still has a job. Nobody lost their position as a result. And they love it. They don't want to go to pre-K. But I told them this is temporary, just for this year. We're going to go back to ECA. So.
Thank you, Dr. Dearman.
You're welcome.
All right, Dr. Howard and Mr. Merrick will be next for the King High School Journalism Skills Experience.
Okay. All right. So, good evening, board, administrators. I'm excited about the opportunity to share with you all an opportunity for our students, where our students are looking at going, let me stop. This is my teacher, our journalism teacher, Mr. Marroquin, who is here to support this presentation and share with you this great experience that he brought to me that I wanted to share with you all. So what we'd like to discuss with you is Explorica. And Explorica is a travel company that specializes in organizing educational tours for children, or students rather. And these educational tours, while they do happen in the continental United States, they also happen abroad. And so that is what we're looking to provide for our students. The focus is on enhancing students' understanding of history, geography, art, and culture. What we have proposed for our students is that they would take a trip to Laredo, Baja California, Mexico, and that is about 1,000 miles southwest of Texas. We're looking at 13 students. We would have one sponsor, one administrator to go with the students to chaperone, and that would take place during March 15th through the 19th. So that's during spring break, and so we wouldn't be missing any school for this trip. This is for our journalism students. And of course, we always want to attach an educational goal to these trips and making sure that it's actually enriching their experience in their classrooms. So this is an opportunity to offer our journalism students an opportunity to use both their photography and their writing skills together in creating stories. And through their photography, they'll be able to go to historical sites. They're on the bottom right-hand side. This is one of the oldest, I believe, buildings in North America, if I remember correctly. The students will be able to go on various tours using their photography skills, creating stories. And I want to mention that I have some students through journalism that Mr. Marroquin and I both have been working with to start a student newsletter. And I would love to be able to feature this story in our first student newsletter and share with the rest of the school on the kids' experience while they're out in Mexico. So the tour will include round-trip airfare. They stay at the Hyatt Regency Hotel, private coach and driver. They would have daily breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I did confirm that with Mr. Marroquin when we spoke about this. A full-time tour guide, I think it's important to note that this full-time tour guide actually is going to be just for the CE King students. And so we would not have any other, groups or from different places or different schools to be joining the group. The sponsor, of course, as I mentioned, is Mr. Marroquin, and then our administrator would be Dr. Orellano, who is also our early college high school dean. Okay. In terms of how this trip is funded, the students actually raise the money to be able to fund this trip entirely. It's about $3,300 per student. They raise this money through their work with photography on our campus, and that's, I would say, a service that they offer. And so this is a trip that, and Mr. Marroquin can talk a little bit more about his experience because we've already done this trip before. But each year when the students are taking senior pictures and they're purchasing those senior pictures, they raise about $7,000. And so we appreciate the board approving that fundraiser for journalism that's allowed them this experience.
So of course, when you're sending your babies to out of country, and for those 13 students, a lot of them have not been out of the country. They've never been to Mexico. And so we wanted to make sure that we can assure our parents that safety measures are in place. They will have an expert tour guide from the local community. There is an emergency contact line that is available 24/7. And on that line, one of the services is a doctor's on-call program. If the student should ever have some sort of medical event. Medical expenses are covered, and I apologize for jumping around, but the medical expenses are covered on the trip. With that $3,300, it does include the travel protection plan that allows them to have all of those expenses covered. I've actually added an additional requirement after speaking with Mr. Marroquin that I would like to require that all students do register with the State Department so that the embassy is aware that the students are in the country. So liability policy, looking at the liability policy, you of course can read for yourself, but that very last sentence I think is important. With Explorica, school officials do not have to assume responsibility for the safety of the students while abroad. Okay, so we bear no liability. Of course, we want to ensure that we are putting safety measures in place, but the company does take full liability, and you can see they have a $50 million liability policy, and the insurance company is listed there. Okay, so cancellation, there is a cancellation policy. The cancellation policy essentially is 31 days or more from the scheduled date of departure, you will get some kind of refund. Okay, so if it were to be canceled 151 days in advance, and we're actually past the 151 days at this point, we're at 110 to 150. Basically, they would get a full refund minus $599, and so forth and so on. And so you can see the schedule there. And it does say that the cancellation request must be submitted in writing at least 24 hours in advance. So I mentioned the travel protection plan, so I just wanted to share a little bit more information about what that includes. The standard travel protection plan provides coverage for a number of events, which include injury or sickness, documented theft or passport or visa, flight cancellations, and those are essentially all of the things that it covers. Loss of luggage, medical expenses. It does cost $12 a day. It would be 5 days, so that's $60, and that is included in the $3,300 cost for each student. So of course, we need to have a parent meeting. What I really like about Explorica, although Explorica does not come with the parents, Explorica does have great resources, the permission slips, the liability releases, even an agenda for the parent meeting is there to answer any questions that the parents may have. That meeting is scheduled for us should we be able to go and you decide to approve this trip for our students Wednesday, January 15th at 6 p.m. So that's all the pieces of information I have. Are there any questions?
I'll just remind the board that Mr. Martin did a similar trip to this. I don't know if he did it since I was principal, but there was a similar trip where they went out of the country with a few students and it went rather well. He didn't ask me to go and chaperone that one, and he didn't ask me to go and chaperone this one either. I'm just kidding. But all that to say, that's true. That's true. But all that to say, it's been supported before.
I love to travel.
I speak.
I speak Spanish with my life. You didn't know I did. But keep those, okay?
This is gone now.
With those kids that's never been anywhere.
That's never been
That's awesome. That is really awesome.
While I didn't mention this, I would say just some of them are getting their passports for the first time, and that's really what I get excited about because I think this will be a jumping point for our kids to want to see other places out of the country. That's going to be such an important experience for them that they probably might not have had. So.
Right.
So what activities will it be? Anything?
Well, mostly visiting these old buildings, and then there's the whale watching, which is what I'm looking forward to. Going out to sea. Sea Cortez is known as what is it? Something aquarium of the world. So there's a lot of wildlife to take notice of.
Let's be honest.
I'll hold it.
Um, actually, but it would just be documentation that you and I will have to.
Okay.
To take care of, meaning that Explorica is the liability. Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, it could be any overnight stuff.
Okay.
Okay, sure of that.
So we'll take care of it and make sure that it's on our agenda for December 17th.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Mr. Duenas with the 25-26 proposed calendar. Did you get a copy of the proposed calendar?
Let the record show Ms. Miles joins at 6:39.
So good evening. Yes, it is that time of the year, believe it or not, that we start thinking, can you believe that, about next school year, 2025, 2026. So that's what we have in front of you. We do have a process in place, obviously. Every year we implement this process where we utilize our school principals, all of our directors, and all of our administrator directors and leaders to be part of the process so that we can begin to identify what we want the calendar to be. When we begin this process, there's always some parameters that we want to make sure that we stay within because, there's certain things that we have no choice about. For example, there has to be 187 days for teachers to be on active duty. So that's a parameter, for example. And then there's some other ones that we want to make sure that we align. For example, spring break, we want to be aligned with St. Jack because it just facilitates the whole process. Once we identify those parameters and we bring all of our leaders and begin to look at other districts' calendars, we begin to create our own calendar. And there's really two objectives that we try to address when creating our calendar. Number one, we want to make sure that we create the most effective instructional calendar for our students. That's the most important part of it. The second thing, obviously, we want to make it very attractive for our teachers. Why? Because we know we are in competition. We know that every district is looking at that, and teachers make a decision, not just based on the salary, which is very important, and you have been so gracious in supporting us in that manner, but also the calendar. That's very important. So things like October fall break have become extremely important for us to stay within that competition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this calendar. I'll go month by month. I'll try to give you the why behind the dates that you see there. But most importantly, I will be able to answer any questions that you may have, okay? So let's start with the month of July 2025. As you can see, we start pretty early. What you see highlighted in blue, those are identified as staff development days. We always have at least 3 staff development days for our brand new teachers coming into our district. We want to make sure that we onboard them correctly, that we set them up for success. The very first day for our returning teachers would then be July the 31st. So we had to do that. We tried to do it in August as much as we could because we do want to finish before the Memorial Day. And remember, we have to have 187 days for our teachers to be on duty. So that forces us to start on 31st for our returning teachers. That takes us right into August. A lot of staff development. As you can see, we try to preload all the professional development so we can set everyone up for success before our students even walk into our buildings. The first day of school would be August the 12th. That would be the very first day of day that the students return to us. So that's August. Let me stop there. Any questions as far as why those days are what they are? If not, we can move on. September, very simple. Obviously, September the 1st, what's on red is a holiday. That's obviously our Labor Day holiday. And then we do have another PD day, very strategically placed, October the 15th. But that's also a day that we can use as a bad weather day. Okay, so that's part of it. That moves right into that October fall. Our teachers really like that idea. And this year, the coming up year, we chose that week to be the week of the October the 6th. We were trying to push it for the week of October the 13th, but On the 17th, which is that Friday, that is our homecoming game. And so it's really hard to build that spirit when the students are not here. That's the reason why we had to push it back. That takes us right into November. In November, we have 2 days there. We have a PD day on the 3rd, and we have the 4th, which is highlighted in yellow. That day is for parent conferences. It's a very important day. We want to make sure that we let our parents know exactly how the students are performing in a very timely manner. And obviously, we have Thanksgiving the very last week. And then that leads us into December. December the 19th would be the very last day of the first semester. And that gives us that holiday break the last 2 weeks of December. So that concludes our very first semester of the 2025-2026 school year. Any questions as far as the first semester? Good, let's move on. So that takes us into January. Our students will be coming back to us on the 7th. We do have 2 PD days when we get back on the second semester, the 6th, the 5th, and the 6th. Now, those 2 days, those are very important because we want to make sure as we come back, we look at the data and we align our instruction for the needs of our students. Obviously, the 19th is a holiday, which takes us right into February. In February, we have the 6th, which is another parent conference day. And then we have the 9th and the 10th, which are slated as staff development days, but those are also flex days. What does that mean? That means that if the teachers take PD during the summer, they can utilize that PD so that those days they can take off. But if they haven't, they have to participate in professional development. Dr. Stewart does a wonderful job in keeping track of those hours for us and making sure that we monitor that to ensure that that is implemented correctly. March is obviously spring break. As you may remember, we always try to align our spring break with St. Jack. It facilitates the process of our instructional programs. And then obviously we have April. You see those 2 days, the 3rd and the 6th, that is Easter. That would be Easter weekend and gives us that flexibility. Obviously, the month of May, we want to finish before that Memorial Day. So the last day of school for students would be the 28th. The 29th would be a teacher work day. And obviously, we have Memorial Day there for you. And that concludes what we are recommending for our 2025-2026 school year. Any questions that you may have on our calendar that we are proposing to you?
What does the staff say about starting so early, even though you get the weeks off and the October, then, well, really it's September.
That's a great question. What we've noticed, because we have done this in the past 2 years, allows us to give the teachers that full October break. They really like it. What happens with teachers, and I even remember back in the days when I was a teacher, by the time you get to late July, early August, you've had so many days, you kind of want to get back to work. And you wish that you had more days during the school year instead of having such a long summer break where you don't even know what to do with yourself anymore. You want to get back to work, get back to the nitty gritty. And so I think a lot of them do like it.
Yeah, I'm just looking at everybody's reaction to see what it's saying the ballot.
It's so bad. What do you mean? It's so bad.
We've gotten to where now our new teachers are starting, July 28th.
Right.
So now we're starting with our new staff in July, we're back in the day, we're starting, those new teachers coming back mid-August, but obviously not getting the days.
You're not getting that October week
Yeah,
and all that.
October
Correct.
break, and that's fine.
And we try really hard to start on August, to be able to start on August 1st instead of July. But because of that rule, where we have to have 187 days. See, Dr. Dearman keeps me
Yeah.
9 years. She makes sure I want to have 187 days. So that had to push it back to the. Thank you.
Straight up, we've seen the school year, over the last maybe 7, 8 years, get more and more towards the beginning of August because the goal is to have more instructional days before testing.
Yeah,
That's
it's always been lopsided in the past.
It's always been
in the
lopsided.
Spring, we had so many more days for tests.
Correct.
And so you gotta start a little bit earlier to get out before the end of the month and, get more instructional days before the kids start sitting for those exams.
But as we're starting now, first day of instruction is 12th of August. And let's just say we didn't have the October break, then we're starting a week later than 19th. So,
And that'll be late in comparison to most. HISD typically starts the latest.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when we have the break, when we didn't have the break, what we were seeing was teachers taking absences. Because
Lots of absences.
our neighboring districts where some of the children attend have the week off, and so they were having a hard time finding childcare. We were seeing absences.
Our student attendance has actually increased
It has.
for multiple factors, but student attendance has gone up.
Teacher professional development has two systems began offering the exchange time again. I know we had it at one point, but we came back to it. A lion's share of our teachers get a lot of professional development in the summer, which helps with the lead up days too. Because many of them come in, they've already started working with the curriculum, they've been able to kind of meet each other. So even when we hire like in June, we're able to get those new teachers like in the PD as quickly as possible. And some of it's just the familiarity and being comfortable with where they're coming into and meeting some people. It really helps. So, it's been beneficial.
And I just look at also, we continue with the teacher shortage, and if we're
Right.
offering these incentives, or what we're creating by our calendar is offering an incentive for the teachers to come in, that this is what, the staff would also prefer. And obviously, education is foremost what we are looking to achieve. But, and I haven't heard anything where sometimes they hear, well, summer's too short and they're already going back to school. But if, obviously, we're looking at results, but also the staff, if it works for them, if they're happy with it, he said, they're ready at the end of July or middle of July to come back to work. Okay, if you say so, but,
I know.
people, whenever something breaks and.
I mean, if I could speak on just being in a profession, I'm with him. It's okay because we do get kind of bored at that
It
point,
does get,
but it helps us get through the year. We're not exhausted.
right.
With having to be in a classroom, it's just like, oh Lord, when are we getting a break? And we actually count down. We got 13 and a half more days now. So it is. I think this is a lot better than what it has previously been. We're not really complaining about coming back in August because we just know the earlier we get, the better prepared we are for the kids to do the testing, to get the time in. So
And remember, this is not done in isolation. We ask our principals to reach out to their leadership team and have those conversations so that when we meet as a committee, we have all that information, and that's
And
how
we
we
really think about absenteeism. I'm gonna put this out there. The worst day for absenteeism is the day after Super Bowl.
It is.
Every single year. The worst.
because you get burnt out. You get
Yeah,
burnt out.
so we put all of our days. Yeah.
If I may though, I will say, I have gotten firsthand feedback from the teachers that the fall break in October is truly beneficial for them. It's a huge motivator. And I literally know of a teacher that packed all of her things and came to Shelley because of the fall break.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. For Dr. Howard. Come to work up here.
Howard does he step out and go to the STEM showcase?
Please, Dr. Howard.
Thank you.
Sandy? Okay. Okay, then, and so this will be on for December. Imagine, the calendar.
Yes, okay.
Okay, moving on to new business annexation with MUD 148.
Mr. President, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the annexation addendum utility commitment with MUD 148 and authorize payment as outlined in the utility commitment with a copy to be attached to become part of the minutes.
I have a motion by Ms. Martinez. Second by Ms. Sarchi. Comments or questions? Do we have an amount? I didn't look at that.
We do. We discussed it in closed session at the last meeting.
Okay.
We
That
have
was-
2 payments.
Yeah, okay, all right. And this. So we'll still be, we'll still be waiting on.
The Dr. King Davis.
Yeah.
Yes, so the Dr. King R. Davis Jr. ESC, we've done an application for the water and the wastewater. That will be a separate addendum. We need to do a retention pond study there to make sure that we can get it certified. So we have already talked to Mud 148 about having their engineer come out and look at that, and I'm waiting on a quote.
And all that retention is gonna be right on the roadside.
The retention pond is actually already there.
Yeah.
Back behind the apartment complex.
Oh, okay.
There's a shared agreement for that large apartment, that large retention pond, that the maintenance of that retention pond will be shared. I don't know the split on that sharing, but then in the future, if we were to build on that, we would have to look at possible additional.
Okay. Yeah, that was my next question.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay, comments, questions? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Okay. Anything? Okay. Okay, we're gonna adjourn to closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551072 to discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property 551074 for the purpose of considering the employment evaluation, reassignment duties, discipline, or dismissal of public officer employee to hear claims for against public officer for considering the employment certifications or implementation of security personnel devices act 709. I'm sorry. 709. Okay.
How y'all leaving?
Just judge that.
President.
It's on your paper, all you have to do is do it.
I know. I don't know.
That was-
Okay, we're gonna, okay, we're gonna reconvene at 8:44.
Yeah, no, he don't say, she kept us in a lot of.
All right, moving, hold on.
All these people know I ain't bashful. Don't y'all? Bashful. City, y'all go know, I ain't bashful.
Okay, moving on to, policy item A, board approval of policy revision.
Mr. President, what else I say?
Read the whole thing.
I'm doing A, right?
Yeah.
Consider approval of board policy revisions. I move that the Board of Trustees approve revised policy BE local, BED local, and BDAA local, and the requirements for 2 readings for policy BDAA local be waived. With a copy to,
With revisions.
with revisions, with a copy to be attached to the minutes.
To become a part of
To be,
become
become
a part of the meeting.
a part of the minutes.
Okay, motion by Ms. Williams-White,
Second.
second by Ms. Archie. Comments or questions? All those in favor? Motion passed unanimously. Okay, other necessary business. Swearing in oath of office for new board members, December 17, 2024. So as our same procedure we followed before, Sandy will do our swearing in, and then we'll retire. Retire our experienced and valuable board members that are retiring from the board. And then the new board members will take their positions for that meeting. Any questions? Any questions, comments?
People.
Yeah, so have a speech ready, and while you're leaving, and you're gonna miss it, and you're gonna regret it. Okay, item B, board meeting December 17, 2024, 7 p.m. Item C, Christmas holidays, December 23rd, 2024 through January 3rd, 2025. Staff return January 6th. What?
No.
Just return January. That was you got.
Says staff return January 6th.
Right.
So why is the holidays from the January 3rd? Shouldn't it say?
The 4th and 5th is Saturday, Sunday.
Oh, okay. Somebody speak that. Okay.
Thank you, Doc.
So what we just, those 2 days in limbo, we're gonna float them? Okay.
Gee, Fred, let the people have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off, jeez.
So Saturday and Sunday.
Please.
There was something else on that, hold on, something just crossed my mind and it went in and out, okay, item 12, board suggestion, recommendation, future organizational information updates. Item 13, suggest future agenda items. Yes, yes. Anything else? Okay, we'll adjourn at 8:48.
We must have missed that.
I know it.